Amara's heart was full of hope as she packed her bags for the long-awaited trip with her husband, Chukwuemeka. She had imagined that this vacation would heal the distance that had slowly crept into their marriage. The thought of walking together under bright city lights, laughing over dinners, and sharing moments of closeness filled her with excitement. She told herself this was their chance to begin again, to feel the love that once tied them so strongly. When they arrived at the luxury hotel, Amara's eyes sparkled at the beauty surrounding her. Everything seemed perfect, the elegant rooms, the breathtaking view, and the promise of beautiful days ahead. But Chukwuemeka's attitude quickly dimmed her joy. He was polite, even charming to others, but when it came to her, his eyes stayed glued to his phone. Amara tried to laugh, to start conversations, but he only nodded or brushed her off. Each ignored glance made her chest heavy. Yet she still clung to the hope that the magic of the trip would bring them closer. One evening at dinner, as she tried to enjoy her meal, a man she didn't recognize walked past their table. His movement was swift, almost unnoticeable, but he slipped a folded note into her hand. Startled, Amara hid it under the tablecloth and quietly opened it. Her hands trembled as she read the words. "You need to run now. He's not who you think he is." Her heart pounded in her chest, but she forced herself to smile faintly while Chukwuemeka joked with the waiter, unaware of her panic. The following day, the same stranger appeared again. This time, when Amara returned to her chair at the hotel cafe, she found a photo resting on it. Her breath caught when she saw Chukwuemeka in the picture, holding another woman's hand in the same city they were visiting. Confusion and fear battled inside her, but she stayed quiet, pretending nothing was wrong. Later, near the hotel lobby, the stranger finally cornered her. His voice was low but urgent as he explained Chukwuemeka's hidden betrayal and dealings. That night, Amara pretended to sleep while her husband whispered on the phone, his tone sharp and secretive. The stranger soon brought her proof, bank transfers, hotel bookings, and undeniable evidence. By the farewell dinner, Amara had found her strength. With calmness in her eyes, she revealed everything in front of the guests, exposing Chukwuemeka's lies. Then she stood, lifted her head high, and walked away, leaving him broken, humiliated, and powerless, while she finally claimed her freedom. Despite the lavish hotel and breathtaking sights, Amara felt a strange emptiness growing inside her. The city was alive with lights, the ocean breeze carried warmth, and everything around her looked like a perfect dream. But her husband, Chukwuemeka, seemed far away. His hands were always busy scrolling on his phone, his eyes fixed on the glowing screen rather than on her face. Amara tried to laugh, to share little stories, to remind him of their old memories, but he only nodded without truly listening. The dinners she had hoped would bring them closer turned into long moments of silence, with her watching him smile more at messages than at her. She tried to believe he was just tired or distracted, that maybe the magic of the trip would soon change things. She dressed beautifully, wore her brightest smile, and suggested walks along the beach, but even then his mind seemed elsewhere. While she admired the sunset, he was busy typing. While she leaned close to him, he leaned closer to his phone. The more she tried, the more she felt invisible, as if her presence no longer mattered. One evening, as the hotel lights sparkled across the pool, Amara reached for his hand, but he pulled it away casually, as if it were nothing. She looked around at other couples laughing, taking photos, enjoying the moment, and a wave of loneliness washed over her. She asked herself if this trip had been a mistake, if she was holding on to love that no longer existed. Still, she kept telling her heart to wait, that maybe tomorrow would be different, that maybe he would finally look at her the way he once did. But the coldness grew heavier each day. His polite smile for strangers, his warmth for waiters, and his charm for everyone else made the distance even clearer. With her, he was silent, detached, like a man living in another world. Amara felt trapped between hope and despair, torn between pretending everything was fine, and facing the truth that their love might already be gone. And yet, she refused to give up too quickly. She still believed that somewhere beneath the silence, the man she once loved might return. She still prayed the luxury around them would open his heart. But deep down, she could not ignore the pain of being unseen. Sitting beside him yet feeling completely alone at a tea dinner, Amara tried to enjoy the meal even though her heart felt heavy from her husband's coldness. The restaurant was filled with soft music, clinking glasses, and couples smiling at each other. She looked across the table, hoping for a spark from Chukwamika, but he was once again glued to his phone. Just as she lowered her eyes to her plate, a man she didn't recognize walked past their table. His steps were calm, but in that quick moment he brushed his hand against hers, slipping a small folded note into her palm. Amara froze, her breath caught in her throat. She quickly placed her hand under the table, hiding the note in her lap, so her husband wouldn't notice. Her fingers trembled as she opened it quietly. Written in hurried words were only a few chilling lines. "You need to run now. He's not who you think he is." Her stomach twisted, and her heart began to race. She felt the blood drain from her face, but she forced a faint smile so Chukwamika wouldn't sense anything was wrong. He laughed at something on his phone, completely unaware of the storm building inside her. Amara folded the note back and hid it in her purse, her mind spinning with confusion. Who was that man? How did he know her? What could he possibly mean? Every sound in the restaurant seemed louder now, every glance sharper, every shadow darker. She wanted to confront her husband, to demand answers, but fear held her tongue. Instead, she sipped her drink slowly, pretending to be calm while her pulse throbbed in her ears. When she dared to glance around, she noticed the stranger again. He was seated at another table, his eyes shifting carefully in her direction, as if making sure she had read the message. Their eyes met for only a second before he looked away, acting as though nothing had happened. Amara's hands shook so badly that she almost dropped her fork. She could barely taste her food, her mind replaying the warning again and again. The evening dragged on, each second feeling heavier than the last. Amara sat there, trapped between the husband she thought she knew and the stranger's terrifying note. She forced a smile, laughed weakly when expected, and played the role of a calm wife, but inside she was unraveling. Something was terribly wrong, and she could feel it. This trip was no longer just about love. It was about survival. "You need to run now. He's not who you think he is." The words on the small piece of paper burned into Amara's mind as she read them under the table. Her hands trembled, and her heart pounded so loudly she was sure someone nearby could hear it. She tried to steady her breathing, but her chest tightened with fear. She dared not look up too quickly, afraid her husband might notice something was wrong. Across the table, Chukwamika laughed at a message on his phone, his face lit up by the screen, completely unaware of the secret Amara now carried. She folded the note with shaking fingers and slid it into her purse, forcing herself to stay calm. Every instinct screamed at her to get up and run, yet she stayed rooted in her chair, trapped by confusion and fear. Who had written the warning? Why should she run from the man she had trusted for years? Amara's eyes darted around the restaurant, searching for the stranger who had slipped her the note, but all she could see were happy couples, waiters carrying trays, and her husband smiling as though nothing was wrong. Her fork felt heavy in her hand, and every bite of food turned to stone in her throat. She tried to mask her fear with small smiles and soft nods, but her thoughts were racing. The man she had married, the man she thought she knew so well, was suddenly painted in shadows by those chilling words. She remembered his coldness since the trip began, his constant attachment to his phone, his distant gaze. The pieces didn't fit, but the unease she had been pushing aside now grew into something undeniable. She shifted her eyes back to Chukwamika, studying him closely. He looked calm, charming even, greeting the waiter politely, and making light conversation with those around them. To anyone else, he appeared to be a devoted husband on a luxury vacation. But to Amara, his smile now looked like a mask, a carefully crafted act hiding something far darker. Her skin prickled with unease, and she fought to keep her hands from trembling on the tablecloth. The warning replayed in her head like a drumbeat. "Run now. He's not who you think he is." Amara sat quietly, a storm building inside her. She didn't know the full truth yet, but one thing was clear. Her life would never be the same after that note. Confused and shaken, Amara tried to keep her face steady while her heart thudded painfully in her chest. The note's warning replayed in her mind again and again, every word sinking deeper into her soul. She clenched her hands under the table to stop them from trembling, forcing her lips into a faint smile so no one around her would suspect. Across from her, Chukwamika chewed slowly, laughing lightly at the waiter's joke, his charm shining for everyone else while his wife sat in silence, fighting back waves of panic. Her eyes moved carefully, scanning the room for the stranger who had given her the note, but she could no longer see him. The absence made her feel even more exposed, as though she were trapped in a stage play where everyone else knew their lines except her. The warmth of the restaurant felt suffocating, and the sound of cutlery striking plates grew louder with every second. Amara tried to take a sip of water, but even the glass shook in her hand. Chukwuemeka looked up briefly, smiling at a woman passing by, then returned to his phone without a glance at Amara. The casualness of his behavior made the warning feel even more real. If he could sit so calmly while she drowned in fear, what else was he capable of hiding? She wanted to scream, to demand answers, but the weight of uncertainty pinned her down. What if she confronted him and it turned dangerous? What if the note was true, and the man she thought was her husband was someone entirely different? Amara's heartbeat echoed in her ears, each thump a reminder that she had to stay quiet, that survival meant pretending. She picked at her food slowly, nodding when her husband spoke without listening to his words. He smiled at others, cracked small jokes, and carried on as though their world was perfect. To outsiders, they must have looked like a normal couple enjoying a beautiful evening. Only Amara knew the truth, that her entire reality was shifting under her feet. She swallowed hard, reminding herself to stay calm. For now, she had to act normal, no matter how terrified she was. The stranger's words were clear, and deep inside, she knew they were not a lie. Something dark was hidden behind Chukwuemeka's perfect smile, and her only choice was to wait, watch, and prepare. The danger was real, and her fear was now her only guide. The stranger appears again, this time when Amara returns to her table at the hotel cafe. She notices a small photo placed neatly on her chair, as if waiting for her. Her heart races as she picks it up quickly, glancing around to see if anyone is watching. When her eyes fall on the image, her stomach twists. It is her husband, Chukwuemeka, holding another woman's hand, walking casually through the same city they are visiting. They look close, almost intimate, as if this trip was not about love with Amara at all, but about covering something else. Her hands shake as she hides the photo under the tablecloth, slipping it into her bag before her husband can return from the counter. Amara forces a calm smile when he sits down, acting as though nothing is wrong, but inside, her chest feels like it is burning. The warning from the note now has proof. She remembers the coldness, the endless time he spends on his phone, and the fake smiles he gives to strangers. Everything begins to fit together in ways she never wanted to believe. She takes slow breaths, pretending to stir her drink while her eyes secretly scan the cafe. At the far corner, she spots the stranger again. He is seated alone, quietly sipping his coffee, but she notices how his eyes lift for just a second to meet hers before he looks away. It is subtle, but enough for her to know that he is the one behind the photo. He does not approach her openly, but his presence is strong, like a silent reminder that she cannot ignore the truth anymore. Chukwuemeka talks lightly about the evening plans, his tone cheerful, as though nothing could possibly be wrong. Amara nods, her lips curving into a small smile, but her mind is racing. She looks at him carefully now, watching the way he avoids her eyes, the way he seems too rehearsed in his words. The man she once trusted feels like a stranger sitting in front of her. Every detail around her sharpens. The clinking cups, the quiet chatter, the stranger's watchful presence. Amara sits quietly, carrying the heavy secret of the photo, knowing her marriage is not what it seems. The clues are no longer whispers in her mind. They are right in front of her, undeniable and sharp, and she realizes her life has already begun to change. The stranger corners her near the hotel lobby, his steps quick and his voice urgent. Amara freezes, glancing around nervously, afraid that someone might see them. The man leans closer, speaking in a low tone that only she can hear. He tells her she is in danger, that her husband is not the man she believes him to be. Amara's breath catches in her throat as he explains that Chukwuemeka has been living a double life, hiding secrets that could destroy her. His words come fast, filled with details that make her head spin. Illegal dealings, secret meetings, and another woman tied closely to his lies. Amara's first instinct is disbelief. She shakes her head, whispering that he must be mistaken, but the stranger's steady eyes tell her otherwise. He reminds her of the note, the photo, the patterns she has already noticed. Each piece falls into place like shards of broken glass, sharp and undeniable. Her chest tightens as she remembers her husband's distant behavior, his endless time on the phone, and the photo of him holding another woman. The stranger's words are not wild accusations. They are truths that match the signs she has been too afraid to face. She feels her knees weaken, her body trembling as if the ground beneath her has shifted. The stranger warns her not to confront her husband directly, not yet, because it could put her at risk. He urges her to stay calm, to keep acting normal, while he gathers more proof. Amara nods slowly, though fear makes her hands cold. She wants to run, to escape immediately, but she knows she cannot act rashly. One wrong move and everything could spiral out of control. As guests walk past them in the lobby, the stranger steps back, blending into the crowd as though their meeting never happened. Amara stands frozen, clutching her purse tightly, her mind drowning in questions. Could the man she married truly betray her so deeply? Was everything she believed about their life together nothing but a lie? She forces herself to walk back to her room, each step heavy with dread. When she sees Chukwuemeka waiting for her, smiling as if nothing has changed, the contrast cuts her deeply. Inside, she is breaking, holding on to secrets that could shatter everything. The private encounter has opened her eyes completely. Her husband's mask is slipping, and now she knows the truth can no longer stay hidden. That evening, Amara lay on the bed with her eyes closed, her body still but her mind wide awake. She slowed her breathing, pretending to be fast asleep, while her husband sat near the window with his phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low, but in the silence of the room, every word carried clearly. Amara's heart pounded as she caught fragments of the conversation. Names she didn't recognize, talk about money being moved, and plans that sounded far from innocent. He spoke quickly, his tone sharp, nothing like the gentle man she once knew. She stayed completely still, clutching the blanket tightly to her chest, afraid that if she moved even slightly, he would know she was listening. Each sentence made her body colder, the truth sinking deeper into her bones. Chukwuemeka was not just distant, he was hiding something dangerous. The stranger's warning, the photo, and now this phone call connected like pieces of a puzzle she had tried to ignore. The man she had trusted with her life was betraying her in ways she could no longer deny. Her mind raced as she listened to him speak about meeting someone later, about making sure nothing ruins the plan. The words struck her like knives. Was she the one in danger? Was she part of the plan he was so desperate to protect? Every second felt like a trap, and fear pushed her deeper into the mattress. She wanted to scream, to confront him, but she bit her lip, forcing herself to remain silent. When the call ended, Chukwuemeka sighed deeply, typing a few messages before slipping into bed beside her. He lay down without a word, as though nothing unusual had happened. Amara kept her eyes shut, her body stiff as stone, while his steady breathing filled the room. To him, she was asleep, unaware. To her, the mask had finally fallen, and there was no going back. The night dragged on, each tick of the clock louder than the last. Amara stared into the darkness, unable to close her eyes again. She replayed the stranger's warning, the photo of betrayal, and now the sound of her husband's voice planning in the shadows. The unmasking had begun, and Amara knew that from this night forward, she could no longer see her husband the same way. The truth had slipped out, and it was far more terrifying than she ever imagined. The stranger provides final evidence when he meets Amara quietly the next afternoon, away from the busy hotel lobby. His face is serious, and without wasting time, he hands her an envelope. Amara opens it with trembling hands, her eyes widening as she sees the documents inside. There are bank transfers showing large sums of money moved secretly, hotel bookings made under her husband's name, but linked to another woman, and messages printed out that reveal lies too clear to deny. Each page is heavier than the last, cutting deep into her heart. Amara feels the world around her spin. The luxurious trip she thought would heal their marriage was nothing more than a cover for betrayal. The man she trusted had brought her here not to love her, but to hide his secrets. Her hands grow cold as she reads the records, the stranger's voice steady as he explains how Chukwuemeka has been playing with both her life and his double dealings. The pieces now fit perfectly. The distance, the constant phone calls, the late-night whispers. Nothing had been an accident. She presses the papers to her chest, her breath shaking. This was not just betrayal of love, it was betrayal of trust, of every vow he had ever made. The stranger warns her that time is running out, that she must act before her husband realizes the truth has reached her. Amara nods, her fear now mixing with a quiet strength. She no longer doubts. She no longer hopes he will change. The evidence is in her hands, and it is enough to tear down every mask he wears. When she walks back into the hotel with the envelope hidden in her bag, she sees Chukwuemeka waiting for her, smiling as if nothing has happened. That smile now looks empty, dangerous, and false. Amara returns it faintly, her eyes calm though her soul burns with fire. He may think he still controls the game, but she knows something he doesn't. His lies are exposed, and his time is almost over. The proof has given her the power she never imagined she would have. For the first time in days, she does not feel weak. She feels ready. The betrayal is no longer a shadow of suspicion. It is truth, written in black and white, and she holds it tightly, preparing for the moment to reveal everything. At the farewell dinner, the room sparkled with lights, music, and laughter. Guests chatted happily, raising their glasses in celebration, while Amara sat gracefully at the table beside her husband. Chukwuemeka smiled proudly, greeting everyone as if life was perfect, but Amara's calm eyes told another story. Hidden in her bag were the documents, the photos, the records, the final proof of his lies. Her heart pounded, but she knew this was the moment she had been waiting for. When the waiter poured the last glass of wine, Amara slowly rose to her feet. The soft sound of her chair moving silenced the table. With steady hands, she placed the envelope on the table and opened it for all to see. Pages slid out, bank transfers, hotel receipts, and photographs. Gasps filled the room as eyes moved from the papers to Chukwuemeka's face. Amara's voice was clear, not angry but strong. She explained what her husband had done, how he had betrayed not only her but the trust of everyone who believed in his mask. Chukwuemeka's confident smile crumbled. His hand reached for the papers, but it was too late. The guests whispered, their stares sharp, their disbelief turning into shame directed at him. Amara stood tall, her presence commanding every gaze in the room. She did not shout. She did not cry. Instead, she simply revealed the truth and let it speak louder than any words. Her husband sat frozen, his pride collapsing under the weight of exposure. With calm grace, Amara lifted her purse, straightened her shoulders, and looked at him one final time. Then she turned and walked away, each step filled with strength. The doors of the hall closed behind her, leaving Chukwuemeka surrounded by whispers, his reputation shattered, his mask torn apart. The night that was supposed to honor him had turned into the night of his downfall. Outside, Amara breathed deeply, the cool air filling her lungs with freedom. She no longer carried fear. She no longer carried doubt. She had faced the truth, revealed the lies, and walked out stronger than ever. The shocking escape was not just leaving the dinner. It was leaving behind the chains of betrayal, stepping into a future that finally belonged to her. Hi, bestie sparkling heart, thank you so much for watching till the end. Cherry Blossom, please don't forget to like, thumbs up, comment, speech balloon, and subscribe bell for more amazing stories. Bye. Sparkles.